Before any health and wellness products are offered for retail, they go through a series of controlled trials. On the show tonight, we have the co-founders of Radicle Science based in San Diego. It is Pelin and Dr. Jeff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time. Let's start off with the importance of your work. Talk about how your work is really helping the health and wellness industry.
Sure. So let's start with what Radicle Science is all about. We are an AI-driven health tech company. We're generating the first proprietary data set on health and wellness products such as CBD, cannabinoids, functional mushrooms such as lion's mane, probiotics, nootropics, a lot of non-prescription health products that are purchased by almost every American without necessarily the data behind them. And what we're doing is with this massive data set, we are predicting their effectiveness. And our goal is to turn them into democratized precision medicine.
Wow. That sounds very interesting. And Jeff, how is Radicle Science disrupting the clinical trials and research? I mean, I think we kind of got a little bit, but dive a little bit more how you're disrupting the industry.
Sure. So, traditionally clinical trials were mainly the purview of largely pharmaceutical companies who have these massive budgets to afford these. And then you have universities running studies on a very kind of local level, studying people who are within driving distance to the university. And these studies involve a lot of personnel. There's a lot of pen and paper. Things are done manually. There hasn't been a whole lot of innovation in the space. A lot of it has to do with the regulations that sit in place when it comes to things like pharmaceutical drugs and whatnot. Some of the ways that we're disrupting these trials is we're going direct to consumer. So these are virtual studies conducted in a participant's own home, and we're taking away a lot of the middlemen and intermediaries that used to sit in between the conduct of these studies. And furthermore, using a lot of technology and automation to remove so many of these expensive personnel that were required for these studies. And with some of these innovations, you can make these studies cheap enough and rapid enough to a point where for a company like a supplement company that doesn't have the patent and monopoly model of pharma, they can actually justify an investment in research. And in the past, they couldn't justify that investment when it was budgets that only pharma could have that could afford these trials.
And if you keep the budget...
Essentially, we actually reduce the cost.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sure. Essentially, we reduce the cost of the trials by more than 10x, make them more than 10x faster, and we make them so much larger than typical clinical trials, which are very small in scale, so that the populations that are being studied are actually representative of the population at large. So that's a pretty big disruption.
I love it. And I was just saying that when you reduce the cost, it eventually reduces the cost for the end user, which is, we're all happy about that. Your website is radiclescience.com. That's Radicle spelled R-A-D-I-C-L-E, science.com, where you can go and learn more about this. Now, you recently released results from the first of its kind pain and joint health study. What were the historically significant about your findings?
Sure. So this was the largest study that ever been conducted on these things called cannabinoids and their impact on pain. And so cannabinoids only exist in the natural world in the cannabis and hemp plant. And we studied over nearly 2,000 people in this study. And what we found is that when you combined CBD with various amounts of other cannabinoids, so CBD is one cannabinoid that viewers might have heard about. Another cannabinoid is THC, which you guys might have also heard about, but there's 100 other cannabinoids in the hemp and cannabis plant. And they all have therapeutic potential in animal studies, but we don't really know what they do in humans. So this was a first of its kind study to look at the CBD and then combining it with different amounts of these other cannabinoids. We call them rare cannabinoids because historically we've not really used them in any abundant amount. And we don't really breed cannabis or hemp to produce these rare cannabinoids. And what we found is that regardless of the amount of rare cannabinoids that you combined it with, 40 milligrams of CBD combined with certain amounts of rare cannabinoids, you saw significant improvements, in not just in pain, but as well as in sleep and anxiety as well. And speaking on the pain front, we found that almost half of people in the study had a clinically meaningful improvement in their pain. Now, the study studied 6 different types of combinations of CBD and these rare cannabinoids. And we found that they all performed roughly equally, but except in one instance. That was the use of a rare cannabinoid called CBC, cannabichromene, in people who had moderate pain to begin with. The addition of cannabichromene to the CBD, that specific combination seemed to beat the other combinations of different cannabinoids when it came to treating people that had moderate pain.
That's great. Yeah, pain control is something we're all interested in for sure. Now, I also want to talk about something fun. Not that that was it, but you guys received the Cool Company 2022 Innovation Award. What is that about?
Sure, yeah, it is actually pretty fun and cool. We're very honored to be selected at Cool Company San Diego for innovation. And it's especially awesome because San Diego has really been emerging as a leader in innovation. We're the top 3 innovation centers in our country. So being part of that innovation framework with incredible tech, biotech, telecom companies, really changing the way we work and live is amazing. And that comes from an incredibly rich ecosystem of entrepreneurship and innovation, as well as working with world-class universities such as UC San Diego, which Radicle Science does quite a bit of.
That's very cool. Your website, again, radicalscience.com. Got about 90 seconds left. What's next? What's next on the horizon? What new things are you testing out using your AI?
First of all, in terms of the AI, the coolest thing about what we're doing is we are doing these studies at very, very large scale, which means we have heterogeneous populations. And instead of just looking at small populations and looking at biostatistics and looking at primary outcomes, we use machine learning, we use AI to be able to explore hidden correlations to see what combinations of products at what dosages may work differently for different population groups. So really going after precision medicine.
And also expanding the categories that we studied. You know, our company's still pretty young. We started really getting operational about 1.5 years ago, not even. And so we initially started with studying lots of cannabinoids because research had been banned for 100 years, lots of Americans using them, a lot of questions needed answering. But now that our company's grown and we have more bandwidth to run studies, we've started welcoming in things beyond cannabinoids, functional mushrooms, nootropics, and other herbs and supplements.
Well, Pelin, Dr. Jeff, it's very interesting to see what you're doing to not only advance medicine, but make it something that's cost effective as well. We appreciate your time tonight. Stick around. This is Create, Build, and Manage Daily.